There comes a moment in every person's life when they are tested, not by the weight of a mountain, but by a single word, a look, a moment of disrespect, a lie told behind your back, a betrayal that cuts deeper than a blade. And in that moment, the world waits to see what you will do. Will you explode? Will you scream? Will you retaliate? Or will you rise above? Let me tell you something most people never learn. Strength is not loud, it's quiet. Power isn't in the reaction, it's in the restraint. We've been conditioned to believe that dominance comes through noise, that if someone shouts, we must shout louder, that if someone disrespects us, we must make a scene. But history doesn't remember the loudest. It remembers the ones who endured, the ones who controlled the fire inside instead of letting it burn everything down. Because silence is terrifying. Silence is a man who looks you in the eyes after you've insulted him and says nothing. Not because he's weak, but because he knows who he is, and nothing you say can shake that. Self-mastery begins where ego ends. When someone tries to provoke you, what they're really doing is baiting your ego. They want a response, not because it proves you're right, but because it proves you're insecure enough to take the bait. But the ones who walk in true strength, they don't need to prove anything. You want to be powerful? Learn to walk away. You want to be respected? Learn to say nothing when everything in you is begging to scream. You want to change your life? Learn to master your inner dialogue before trying to win an outer argument. Because what you don't respond to says more about you than what you do. Look at the greatest minds in history. Lincoln, Gandhi, Marcus Aurelius, Mandela. They weren't loud men. They weren't quick to react. They were still. They were precise. They were grounded in something bigger than pride. They knew something most people don't. Energy is currency. And every time you react emotionally, you're spending it on something that will never pay you back. The people who provoke you don't deserve your peace. They didn't earn your reaction. They didn't build your discipline. So why hand it over? For free? Every second you spend defending yourself to people who don't even understand you is a second you're stealing from your purpose. Every petty argument is a distraction from the empire you're building. Every emotional reaction is a withdrawal from your mental wealth. Listen to me. You don't have time to get offended. You don't have time to chase down every critic. You don't have time to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding. You, let them talk, let them gossip, let them try to tear you down. Your silence is your shield. And your success is the answer they'll never be ready for. Because here's what they don't tell you. Every great man or woman who changed the world had to first learn how to master themselves. Before they built fortunes, before they led in nations, before they stood on stages, they had to learn how to stand in the fire without flinching. You think Henry Ford didn't face mockery when he tried to build a car? You think Edison didn't hear, "You're wasting your life," after his 1,000th failed experiment? You think Oprah didn't get criticized when she rose from nothing and became a media titan? They were provoked. They were doubted. They were dismissed. And they said nothing because they were too focused on becoming. You see, the people who build legacies aren't wasting time arguing in the mud. They're building towers so high that the noise below becomes irrelevant. This is the Napoleon. Hill truth that too many forget. Your thoughts are seeds, and your reactions are what waters them. If you constantly feed your mind with petty conflict, you grow bitterness. If you feed it with composure, you grow clarity. The mind, like soil, grows whatever you plant in it. So why plant anger? Why plant vengeance? Why let someone else's chaos become your climate? Let it go. Let them rage. Let them scream. You stay silent. And watch your discipline become your freedom. Because discipline is the quiet force that builds empires. It's not flashy. It's not loud. But it's relentless. It's the voice that tells you, you don't need to answer this. You don't need to prove anything. Keep building. And when you operate with that mindset, you don't just earn power. You become it. The most dangerous person in the room is never the one shouting. It's the one who sits still, watching, listening, calculating, because while others are busy reacting, they are observing. While others waste time with noise, they refine their focus. While the world is consumed by impulse, they move with intention. That is true control, and control is power. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that shapes reality. The person who controls their mind controls their future. You may not be able to control what others say about you, but you can control what you give power to. You can't stop the world from provoking you, but you can stop yourself from answering the call. That is where your freedom lives. Because the goal isn't just success, it's peace. And peace doesn't come from victory in battle. It comes from not needing the battle at all. You must train your mind to think in decades, not moments. You must ask yourself, will this matter to my legacy? Because when you're focused on building something eternal, temporary emotions can't distract you. People who move mountains don't stop for pebbles. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to win in life. You're here to elevate, to grow, to evolve. You're here to become the kind of person who walks into a room and doesn't need to speak to be heard. Presence is louder than pride. When you embody calm under pressure, when you respond with dignity instead of ego, you walk in the footsteps of giants. Think of Carnegie, who negotiated with steel barons without ever raising his voice. Think of Roosevelt, who commanded nations not through shouting, but with presence. The strong don't raise their voices. They raise their standards. Let that sink in, because this world is built to distract you. Social media is engineered to provoke you. Every headline is a trap for your attention. Every insult, a hook to steal your energy. But when you stay silent, when you stay grounded, you break the cycle. You become untouchable. Not because life stops testing you, but because you stop reacting. Most people live in emotional poverty. Every day they wake up and give away their peace like it means nothing. They hand it to strangers, to co-workers, to the driver who cut them off, to the person who said something slick in a comment section. Their energy is scattered, fragmented, diluted. But you gather it, you protect it, you treat your attention like a treasure chest, and you only invest it in what builds you. That's mental wealth, and mental wealth is the foundation for every other kind of success. You can't build a legacy with a chaotic mind. You can't attract abundance while reacting to nonsense. You can't create something extraordinary when you're constantly pulled into the ordinary. So let people say what they want. Let them misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. That's their role. Your role is to build. Your role is to remain focused. Your role is to stay so silent in the face of noise that the only sound they hear is your success echoing in every corner they once said you'd never reach. Because silence is not weakness. It's strategy. It's what allows you to conserve energy, to sharpen your tools, to see the battlefield clearly. While others fight over shadows, you study the terrain, you position yourself, you wait. And when you strike, it's not emotional, it's effective. Let your silence confuse them. Let your calm unsettle them. Let your lack of response remind them that you don't exist to be moved by small minds. You exist to move mountains. And that doesn't happen by getting dragged into drama. That doesn't happen by proving a point. That happens by proving a pattern, one of consistency, of strength, of quiet domination. Because strength is not reactive, it's proactive. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how unshaken you remain when it does. It's about rising above without needing applause. It's about being so in control of your mind that no one else can control it for you. That is the highest form of success. You see, the world tries to measure strength by noise, but the greatest men and women in history knew better. They measured strength by stillness, by grace, by the ability to walk away with dignity rather than stay and fight out of insecurity. They mastered the battlefield of the mind before they ever conquered anything outside of it. And that's your calling too. You want to be different? Be unreactive. You want to stand out? Stay composed. You want to build a life that no one can tear down? Start by building a mind that no one can invade. Every time you remain silent when provoked, you gain ground within yourself. You claim a deeper level of mastery. And in that space, power grows, vision expands, greatness is forged, not through the roar of conflict, but through the quiet of self-control. So the next time you're tested, pause, breathe, smile if you must, and remember, lions don't respond to every bark. They stay focused on the hunt. There's a hidden power in silence that most people will never taste, because they're too addicted to noise. Addicted to being right. Addicted to being seen. Addicted to the instant gratification of reaction. But those chasing greatness learn early discipline is delayed response. It's the space between stimulus and reaction that defines who you are. Anyone can shout when they're angry. Anyone can clap back when disrespected. That's not strength, that's instinct. That's the same nervous system an animal has. But to feel that fire rise in your chest and not let it escape your lips, that's strength forged by will. That's command. That's self-respect. Because every time you bite your tongue, you're telling the world, my energy is sacred. You're building something greater than ego. You're channeling your fire into foundation, not flame. And let me be clear, this isn't weakness. This isn't retreat. This is you learning to hold the sword without swinging it. Because real warriors only draw their weapon when the war is worthy. And most battles people try to drag you into, they aren't worthy. They're distractions in disguise, time thieves, emotional traps. You don't climb mountains by wrestling every snake on the path. You keep walking, eyes on the peak, feet on purpose. Every time you stay silent when provoked, you're putting bricks into the wall of your legacy. And legacies aren't built with rage, they're built with restraint. Because what people remember about the greats isn't just what they did, it's how composed they were doing it. Think about Martin Luther King Jr., provoked, beaten, mocked, and yet his silence became his weapon. His calm became his thunder, his restraint became the revolution. The man marched not with fists, but with focus, and that changed the world. Your voice is powerful, but your silence is nuclear when it's directed by discipline, not fear. Because silence doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what matters. It means focusing your effort where it counts. It means building your name instead of defending it. It means letting fools argue while you accumulate wisdom, wealth, and inner peace. Do you understand what that really means? It means trading battles for breakthroughs, trading heat for humility, trading quick satisfaction for eternal significance. And make no mistake, every time you react to nonsense, you cheapen your value. Because energy is limited. You can't give your best to your vision if you've already spent your mind on insults and tension. So, stop negotiating with noise. Walk away. Not because you're above them, but because you're ahead of them. Not because you don't feel anger, but because you've trained it to serve you, not sabotage you. This is the difference between average and extraordinary. Average people let every trigger pull them out of alignment. But extraordinary people, they use the trigger as training. They use the tension to sharpen their awareness. They let their silence roar louder than any words ever could. And in that space, in that stillness, they find clarity. They make decisions that last. They plant seeds that grow empires. And here's the thing. People notice. They won't always say it, but they'll feel it. Your calm presence will disturb their chaos. Your refusal to engage will mirror their insecurity. Your self-control will become the contrast they didn't know they needed. You become the one they watch, even when they won't admit it, because stillness is rare. In a world that applauds outrage and impulse, someone who responds with discipline is unforgettable. So the next time someone tests your patience, someone tries to bait your pride, someone tries to make their storm your storm, don't flinch. Look them in the eye, and let the silence do what words never could, because strength isn't the reaction. Strength is the redirection. Redirect that fire inward, into your focus, into your craft, into your goals. Use it to refine your standards. Use it to fuel your work when no one's watching. Use it to build something so undeniable that no insult can touch it. Silence, in the hands of the disciplined, becomes a sculptor. It chisels away weakness. It carves out the path. It turns you from reactive into relentless. And that's the person the world follows. Not the one with the loudest voice. The one with the deepest vision. You want to be remembered? Then learn to be unmoved in a world that profits off your panic. Learn to be composed when the room burns with judgment. Learn to breathe slow when your blood starts to boil. Learn to anchor yourself in values so deep, no wave of emotion can wash them away. Emotional control is the final frontier of mastery, and here's the truth. Most people avoid. Growth requires discomfort. Silence when provoked? That's one of the hardest disciplines a human can develop, because silence isn't passive, it's pressure. It forces you to sit with the burn instead of throwing it at someone else. It makes you witness your own ego and choose not to obey it. But if you want to be free, you've got to break the habit of needing to be right. You've got to stop worshipping the sound of your own defense, because the people who build legacies don't defend them. They live them, and their life becomes the evidence. Let your actions argue for you. Let your results speak louder than your rebuttals. When someone questions your worth, you don't need a speech. Let your discipline answer. Let your consistency be the courtroom. Let your peace be the proof. That's how the greats rise, not by shouting over doubt, but by outlasting it. Because endurance is the language of the successful, and silence is its accent. Picture the most powerful version of you, the version who doesn't flinch when insulted, doesn't break when pushed, doesn't lose sleep over critics. That version of you exists on the other side of your current reactions. You just have to outgrow the need to always respond. You have to let go of the part of you that still seeks validation through retaliation. Because here's the twist. When you no longer need to prove yourself, you become undeniable, and this doesn't mean you don't feel. Of course you feel. You feel everything, but you process before you project. You pause before you pounce. You respond with poise, or not at all, because your mission is too important to be derailed by emotion. That's when you start to see things clearly. You realize that 90% of what provokes you is beneath you. You realize that most people aren't trying to offend you. They're just acting from their own wounds, their own fears, their own limitations, and you don't need to match their chaos. You're not here to mirror the world. You're here to mold it. You're here to be the example of what it looks like when a human being refuses to be a slave to emotional spikes. When a human being chooses vision over vengeance. When a man or woman lives for something so big that insults bounce off like dust. Because when you're climbing, you don't argue with those stuck on the ground. You reach higher. You look forward. You pour everything you have into the next level, not into those who stayed behind. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Yes, you'll want to scream. Yes, you'll want to clap back. But in that exact moment, you remind yourself, I'm not here to win this moment. I'm here to win my life. And your life, your true life, is waiting on the other side of restraint. Because in that silence, something is born. Clarity, conviction. The space to think strategically. The space to plan. The space to build something unstoppable. And when you build from that silence, from that deep, focused, unprovoked stillness, you don't just survive adversity, you become the blueprint. You become the story they tell about resilience. You become the one they point to and say, that's how it's done. Because strength is not seen in the noise you make. It's seen in what you don't let shake you. It's the invisible armor. It's the unshakable center. It's the storm inside that you've tamed. Not killed, but transformed into fuel. And when you walk into the world with that kind of centered fire, you don't need to roar. People feel it. People sense it. People move out of your way, not because you demanded it, but because your presence declared it. So stop defending your worth. Start demonstrating it. Quietly, relentlessly, daily, with every step forward you take, without explanation. With every storm you endure without collapse. With every insult you ignore because you're building something too great to be slowed by small minds. That is the work of a lifetime. And it starts now, with a single breath, held instead of a word released, a single step taken instead of a punch thrown, a single moment of power, not loud, not flashy, but real. There is a moment, so rare and so sacred that very few ever reach. It's the moment when you stand in the middle of conflict, in the middle of insult, in the middle of misunderstanding, and you feel nothing but calm. No need to explain. No need to fight. No need to chase validation, just stillness, just presence, just power. Not the kind of power the world screams about, but the kind that can't be taken because it was never given. The kind of power that's been earned through years of discipline, through battles fought in silence, through tears wiped in private while the world saw nothing but progress. That's what the greats are made of. Not just the dreamers, but the doers. Not just the fighters, but the finishers. Because anyone can rise when the sun is shining. But it takes something otherworldly to remain calm in the storm. And not just once, but every time. Not just when it's easy, but when everything in you wants to scream, to rage, to lash out. That's when the real work begins. Because life will provoke you. It will come at you with delays, betrayals, rejections, and injustice. It will hand you disrespect like it's your daily bread and say, "Eat this, let's see what you'll do." And in that moment, the immature will react. But the wise, they'll transform, because they know that provocation is preparation, that every insult, not responded to, is a brick laid in their inner kingdom, that every test of patience passed is a new level of power unlocked. The man who says nothing when wrongly accused is not weak, he is unbreakable. The woman who walks away from slander with her head held high is not passive. She is a warrior, because strength, true strength, doesn't chase noise. It moves in silence. It doesn't crumble under pressure. It becomes a diamond because of it. And maybe that's what life has been doing to you, pressing you, pushing you, testing you. Maybe the pressure wasn't meant to break you. Maybe it was there to refine you, to reveal to you the kind of control that lives inside you, the kind that doesn't bend to every mood, the kind that holds the line. And once you know that, once you've felt that power rise inside of you, the power of silence, the power of self-command, you never go back. Because you realize this is who you were always meant to be, unshaken, unbothered, unmovable, a presence in a world of panic. A rock in a sea of waves, a soul on fire with discipline and purpose. And from that place, everything changes. You speak less, but your words hit deeper. You do more, but with less stress. You gain respect, not by demanding it, but by deserving it, because you are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are no longer proving. You are becoming. You are no longer controlled. You are in command. And here's the greatest truth of all. The strongest people you'll ever meet. They don't react. They decide. They don't fight petty wars. They fight for vision. They fight for legacy. They fight for a future that most people are too distracted to even see. And that is your invitation. To walk that same path. To rise above your own impulses. To become the rarest kind of human. The kind that knows exactly who they are, even when the world tries to convince them otherwise. To be the man or woman who keeps their peace when everything is designed to steal it. To walk through fire and not be burned. To be silent and still speak volumes. Because when you master that, you don't just win arguments. You don't just avoid chaos, you win yourself. And in this life, that is the highest victory. So the next time you're provoked, the next time life tries to shake you, smile, not because it doesn't hurt, but because you've trained for this. Because this is what you were made for. Because you no longer fight battles that don't build you. You walk away, not to retreat, but to rise. And you walk in silence. Because you are no longer who you used to be. You are focused. You are grounded. You are becoming something that noise cannot touch. You are the calm within the storm, and that is unshakable strength.